Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to Swift Programming for Beginners. So first of all, I'd just like to apologize because I'm slightly late in starting the FB Live session. This is because the current version of Chrome I was using is no longer supporting the camera mode in Facebook Live, and I had to download the beta version of Chrome in order to use Facebook Live. So anyway, let's get started. As usual, go to repl.it/languages/Swift. And in today's lesson, you'll be learning about closures. We'll also be learning about how to simplify closures. So what is a closure anyway? A closure is like a function in that it groups together a number of statements. So I'm going to show you an example of a closure right now. Okay. So you can see here, I use a let statement. So the let statement means this is a constant. This is the name of my closure. And look at what I assign to it. So a closure is similar to a function in that it groups together a number of statements, but you can see that the form is a bit different. This is the argument. This is the return type. And here we have the body. Okay. So what this closure does is it takes a number, it multiplies by itself, and returns the result. Let's see what happens when I try and do this. Okay. So you can see it works just like the function. But the interesting thing is that you can assign it as a constant. And this means you can pass it around in the body of your code. So one of the things that you'll use closures for is when you're doing iOS development. Let's say, for instance, you're downloading something from the internet and you want something to happen after the file or whatever it is that you're downloading has been completed. So typically you can pass in a closure, and the closure will be executed after the download operation has been completed. Now, one of the things that's always a bit challenging for new Swift programmers is how experienced programmers simplify closures. As you can see here, this looks very straightforward, but you might see some things which are different when you're actually looking at code which is written by experienced programmers. And I'm going to show you an example of how you can simplify a closure. And this will hopefully make it easier for you to understand code that you see written by experienced programmers on the internet. So I'm going to give you a closure right now. Okay, so this is a closure. In fact, it's the same closure that that you used earlier. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a function called map, and this function is going to be applied to an array. So you're only going to be learning about arrays in the next lesson, but in the meantime, just think of it as a sequence of numbers. Okay. So I'm going to take this closure and put it in here. Okay. Just going to remove everything else. So the way this works is that we have a sequence of numbers, 2, 4, 6, and 7. And then we are going to use a function called map. You learned about functions in the last lesson. So this function takes a closure, and this is the closure that you're passing in. So what this closure does is that it applies the body to each individual number in this array. So the result will be 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. 4 multiplied by 4, which is 16. 6 multiplied by 6, which is 36. And 7 multiplied by 7, which is 49. So let's go ahead and run this. Hopefully I didn't make any typing mistakes. Oops. Okay. Forgot the S. Okay, there we go. Now, this is how the closure is written, but when the closure type is already known, you can remove the parameter type, return type, or both. So what that means is that I can remove this. Because I know that I'm going to get an integer and I'm going to return an integer. And I can also remove the return statement. So that's how our closure looks like now. Let's try and run it. Should still work. Okay, got to take that up. Okay, so you can see it's much simpler than before. It's more concise anyway. So number multiplied by itself, you get 4, 16, 36, and 49. Now, when the closure is the only argument in the function, which it is in this case, I can take out the parentheses. And that should still work. Finally, I can refer to parameters by number instead of by name. So instead of using number, I can just do this. So we'll use $0 multiplied by $0. This means you take a number and you multiply it by itself. If you want to multiply it with the next number in the sequence, you use $1. And we'll run that. And you see you get the same results. So closure here is very concise indeed. But this is going to be challenging for new developers to understand. So feel free to write closures in a way that you're comfortable with. So you've come to the end of this lesson. You've learned about closures and you've learned how to simplify them. So thanks very much for watching. And thanks very much for watching, not washing. That's laundry. I'm going to have to do that later. So thanks very much for watching. And then we'll be back on Thursday, where we're going to look at the collection types, arrays, dictionaries, and sets. So until then, stay safe and take care. Bye.